Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, and tonight I'm going to be re-reviewing the original Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 to you, this time with video footage. My opinions haven't particularly changed since that original review. I still find that this game is slow and clunky, sometimes unresponsive, and the graphics are so ugly even by Nintendo 64 standards. Like, seriously, some of these characters look better in their older games than they do here, which is kind of embarrassing. However, now that I have video footage, now you can see for yourself what I'm talking about instead of trying to envision this polygonal mess. In addition to that, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has since come out, and Banjo and Kazooie have become a reality. So that in and of itself makes re-reviewing basically any Smash Bros. Game a reason to celebrate. Except for this one, because they didn't get Banjo and Kazooie. They could have. They still owned Rareware at that point, but fanboyism aside, at least it happened sometime rather than no time. Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 was a pretty revolutionary experience for its time, as the Nintendo 64 was the first video game system to have 4 controller ports built into the system without a separate accessory. But they also wanted it to take what Street Fighter did and make a completely different style of fighting game that was easy to learn, difficult to master. So the first step was creating recognizable faces. The second step was simplifying the controls. So take a game where you've got a whole bunch of Nintendo All-Stars way before third parties were given permission to join, and make it so that all of your offensive moves were done by 2 buttons and your defensive moves were used by 2 buttons. Boom. Instant success. This system works so well that the other Smash games have more or less still used this exact same scheme, just refined it a little bit. You still use the 2 buttons to jump, 2 buttons to use defense, and 2 buttons to use offense. The main difference is that the frame rate is better, the graphics are better, but the basic concept still remains just as addicting as it was in 1999. So the only real reason you'd want to pick this up would be for historical curiosity. Although, in fairness, this is probably the best multiplayer game that you can get on the Nintendo 64. You even have the ability for everyone to choose the same character. So if you're like, no fair, I called Mario first, well, all 4 of you can play as Mario if you want to. Now, Super Smash Bros. 64 doesn't have a whole lot of content. However, considering that this was in the casual era of Super Smash Bros., way before the competitive scene, in my personal opinion, kind of ruined Smash Bros., it was way more of a party game. So the single-player modes were more or less an afterthought because the Nintendo 64 was the couch multiplayer machine back in the 90s and 2000s, so why would the single player take up that much space? As a result, it makes a bit more sense retroactively why the amount of content here is so limited, but also pretty much all of it is here from the beginning. There's only 1 stage to unlock, there's only 4 characters to unlock, and there's an optional sound test to unlock, and the ability to switch which items you want in the match, and that's about it. However, that is really good for multiplayer-centric families because they could just jump right in and have most of the content already there, and the single players would just get an added bonus. Now, fighting against the CPU opponents is no fun, so they added a 1-player mode, and you want to know what brilliant name they called it? 1-player mode. Names. Gotta love them. However, unlike the future Smash iterations, these were always fixed matches. You would always face Link at Hyrule Castle. You'd always face a team of Yoshis on Yoshi's Story before it became called Super Happy Tree, like it should have been since the beginning of time. And overall, it got a little bit repetitive. However, because there were so few characters to choose from, it wasn't nearly as grindy as later games in the series made it. There were also 2 mini-games that you could play just in case fighting wasn't really your thing. You could do Break the Targets, where each individual character was given a gauntlet to go through to use their unique moves and characteristics to break some targets. In addition, you also had Board the Platforms, which surprisingly has never returned in any Smash Bros. Game, and and is perhaps the only reason you'd want to pick up this version ever again. Basically, it's the same concept as Target Test, except this time the characters have to jump on platforms using their abilities. It helped each character to feel unique rather than just cut from the same cloth as some other fighting games do. While each character has the same basic maneuvers, like every character has a standard attack, every character has 3 special moves, they also had unique characteristics that help set them apart, like Mario twirling his opponent around before throwing them, or Samus having a grapple beam so that she could grab opponents from a distance. These little touches made it so that the characters felt balanced, but yet at the same time they also felt unique, and the Target Tests and Board the Platforms did a brilliant job of mixing that up. You also had little biographies of each of the characters, because at the time advertising wasn't quite as sophisticated as it is nowadays. So a lot of us, myself included, when we booted up the Smash Brothers series, were like, who's Ness? And this guy Samus is pretty cool, because we'd never heard of Metroid. How are we supposed to know that Samus was actually a girl, and that the name Super Smash Brothers was actually a lie? This was a great way for Nintendo to just really milk their lesser-known franchises and just squeeze the cash even more out of their top-tier franchises. Essentially, it put the lesser-known and the greater-known on the same playing field. And that trend has continued even to this day, where we probably wouldn't have Fire Emblem being as great as it was if it hadn't been for Marth and Roy appearing in Super Smash Bros. Melee. And this trend started with Smash 64, as Ness and Captain Falcon were pretty much nobodies before this game. Now, I'd be remiss to find a Nintendo fan who hasn't heard of Earthbound and F-Zero, although I'd also be remiss to find a Nintendo employee who will actually make a new Earthbound or F-Zero game. But that is beside the point. So historical curiosity aside, there's really no reason to pick up this original game. The music, sound effects, and stage design are all so basic. However, in fairness, when I replayed this game, there were 2 things that stood out in my mind that I hadn't really appreciated before now. The first was that this felt a lot more celebratory in the match itself. Now, what I mean by that is that every Smash game to date has had an audience that'll occasionally cheer and gasp. But in this game, it seems the most relevant out of all of them. Even in the single player mode, when you're playing by yourself, you'll hear loud, amazed cheers. In a way, maybe this prefigured Pokemon Sword and Shield, where the characters actually are excited to watch this matchup. The fact that the canonical story is that they're all toys facing each other, it sort of added to the illusion of this is a celebration of video games. Second, I thought that the stages were really well balanced. I think I would dare say that there's not a single stage in Smash 64 that's completely unplayable. The worst thing I can say about the stages is that Dreamland is too simple of a layout, but it's better to be simple than to be completely unplayable. And for that, I think the whole less is more approach really worked well here, as opposed to trying all sorts of different experimentation. I also think the roster was pretty well balanced, as there's not really a bad character in here with the possible exception of Jigglypuff. While I'm grateful for what the series has done over the years, I'm still really glad that this game started it all, even if that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be booting it up anytime soon, unless if I really want a balanced selection of stages. But literally all of them, except for Samus' stage, have been ported over in the other Smash games, one form or another, so it's fun to see where the series started, but no more than that. So with that, thank you very much for watching. If there was anything I left out, please let me know in the comments section, and I will see what I can do to answer them. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and how many of you got Metal Gear vibes whenever Mario picked up a box in this footage? Bye!